So John Jones officially pulled out of his matchup against Stipe Miocic at UFC 295, and Stipe Miocic did not take the next up-and-comer. He did not fight the next dude up in Sergey Pavlovich. He decided to actually decline it outright and sit out and pretty much ruin his career, and at this point he needs to retire. But before I dive into Stipe, Tom Aspinall came in to save the day. He will fight Sergey Pavlovich for the interim heavyweight belt, and it will be promoted to the co-main event, while Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prochazka will take John Jones and Stipe's spot as the main event of UFC 295. So very exciting matchups, and I cannot wait to actually watch these go down. And I will break down Aspinall versus Pavlovich here in a second, but let's talk some business. Let's talk about our man Stipe Miocic. So let's break down his faulty judgment. Actually, not really. I'm kind of hyping this up a bit too much, but I think Stipe is done. I definitely think at this point in his career, he needs to retire, hang up the gloves, and just call it a night. He's only in this fight game to fight John Jones. He only wanted to defend his throne as the best heavyweight of all time, and the biggest threat to that would be John Jones. And since John Jones is hurt, he's out, he tore his pec, there's no point in Stipe fighting anybody else. He doesn't want to fight anybody else. He made that pretty clear in declining these matchups against Pavlovich. So at this point, Stipe, there's really no point for him to even continue fighting. Let's be honest here. A torn pec takes a long time to heal. And if he only wants to fight John Jones has to now take time off, get healthy, heal up his pec. Then he has to get back into a training camp, get back prepared, and fight the winner of Pavlovich versus Aspinall, which we're already talking probably, a year and a half before we ever see Stipe and John Jones ever be mentioned about fighting each other ever again. It's going to be a very long time before we even mention Stipe versus John Jones. So at this point, I don't really even see Stipe even fighting John Jones. The UFC will not sit here. They will not promise Stipe a title shot. That probably won't ever happen. The UFC is going to completely move on from this and have John Jones fight the winner of Pavlovich versus Aspinall. So I just don't see Stipe probably ever fighting John Jones ever again. And if he's only in this fight game to fight John Jones, it being a very slim to none chance of happening, there's actually 0 point in him to continue fighting and holding up the division and taking a spot from somebody when he doesn't really even deserve it in the first place. Let's be honest here. Stipe is coming off a loss to Francis Ngannou by KO. He has not fought since March 27th of 2021. It's been over 2 years since we last seen Stipe, and now he's going to have to sit out on the sidelines and wait for John Jones again, probably for another year to a year and a half. At this point, there's actually no point for Stipe to continue fighting. Just call it a career, man. Genuinely. I know I'm repeating myself a lot here, but I just don't see a pathway for Stipe to fight John Jones anymore. There's just too many hurdles. There's too many factors going into this. The UFC is going to completely move on, and I think Stipe should move on as well. He's also 41 years old right now. He'll be 42 or 43 by the time he fights John Jones. He's too old to be in the fight game still. I like Stipe. I respect Stipe. I loved his matchups against DC. He has nothing left to prove in his career. He's already the GOAT. He's already made his money. There's actually nothing left for Stipe Miocic left to prove. And I think at this point, calling it a career is probably the best thing for him. Let's be totally honest here. There's just no reason for him to fight. If he can't fight John Jones, what is him fighting a guy like Pavlovich do for him? Nothing. Him losing to these up-and-comers only hurts his legacy if he does lose. There's too much risk involved. He's too old. He needs to take his time off. He seems like he already has some level of CTE, a little bit. I don't know. But it seems like he's taken a lot of damage in his career, and especially getting killed by Ngannou. There's nothing left for him to prove again. He needs to call it a career and just retire. I love Stipe. I love his fights. He's a heavyweight GOAT, all honesty. All respect to Stipe and his future endeavors and who he is as a person. Big respect to him. But I think the smart business decision would be to just hang up the gloves and call it a very awesome career. I wouldn't mind him fighting Pavlovich. I wouldn't mind him fighting Aspinall down the line. But I think right now, if he's only in it for John Jones and nobody else, just goodbye-bye. See you later, Stipe. Great career. Have fun. But moving on, we have Sergey Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall in the co-main event now, and this is a very tricky fight to predict, and I'm excited. I'm almost as excited to watch this as I would have been to watch Jon Jones versus Stipe. Actually, I'm probably more excited to watch this than Jon Jones versus Stipe because we've been wondering since Jon Jones kind of leaked his retirement on Twitter, who will be the next guy to take his place? Who will take the heavyweight throne and declare themselves the best heavyweight? Who will actually cement themselves as the actual new age heavyweight? We've had so many fighters like Cyril Gahn. We've had Tom Aspinall. We've had, at one point, people were considering Chris Dawkins to be a new age heavyweight. I mean, we have a bunch of guys, Sergey Pavlovich, a bunch of guys in this new age heavyweight sort of circle of this crew, but none of them have been able to become champion yet. And with Sergey Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall fighting each other from this interim belt, we can finally crown a new age champion, even though I know it is for an interim belt. But I'm kind of thinking that Jon Jones might retire. Low-key, I think he might call it quits before he fights Pavlovich or Tom Aspinall. I think the winner of this will be promoted to the undisputed heavyweight champion later down the line, or they might actually end up fighting Jon Jones and beating him. I don't know. I think Jon Jones will want to get one more fight in, and then I think he will retire. But I can just see Jon Jones retiring along with Stipe maybe because he wants to fight Stipe, and that's probably it. We'll see what happens. We'll officially have a guy in the new age heavyweight category that we can claim is the actual best new age heavyweight of all time, or not all time because it's new age heavyweights. I'm just tripping. I'm just saying words at this point, but we'll have a guy who is actually a crowned or a new blood or new dog in the yard of the heavyweight division. But in terms of picking this fight, I'm kind of leaning towards Aspinall just slightly, just a little bit. We don't know much about Pavlovich still. I know he lost his debut to Overeem. He lost by what, like a knee to a body, then ground and pound. And then after that, he's been on an absolute tear, KOing everybody in the first round. And Aspinall does tend to leave his chin up there. Against Spivak, his chin was kind of up in the air. Against Curtis Blades, his chin was kind of up in the air. But again, then he hurt his ACL or whatever. But there's something about Tom Aspinall, something about his uber aggressive style that just gives me this weird gut feeling and makes me want to predict him because it seems like he's going to go at Pavlovich, just be super uber aggressive and not care if he gets tagged by him, and then try to take him down, go for double legs, shoot very athletic takedowns, and try to get him down on the ground and pound him, go for subs. And I think this might propose some issues to Sergey Pavlovich. I don't think he's had somebody really try to get into his face and try to slang and bang with him. Even Tai Tuivasa at one point was at range trying to set up things. But I think Aspinall will not try to set anything up and just immediately go for the kill, go for the finish, and just dive into this and try to get a first round KO. And I think the pressure might get a little bit to Sergey Pavlovich. But keep in mind, I do think Pavlovich has a great chance of KOing Aspinall on the feet because, again, his arms are so long. He's a long guy, but he has the highest ape index in the UFC, and he can definitely tag Aspinall at range if Aspinall decides to sit at range at any point. And it seems like he has nukes for hands, so like he can definitely chin Aspinall. We haven't seen Aspinall's chin really even tested ever, I think, in his entirety of his career. So we might see Aspinall get put out cold for the first time. Definitely a possibility. This to me is a coin flip fight. I don't mind who you pick. If you pick Aspinall, if you pick Pavlovich, I think you have a great case or a great argument for both of them. But it is a very, very 50-50 fight, in my opinion. I will go ahead and break down this fight in greater detail later down the line, probably during fight week. So if you want to stay tuned for a really in-depth breakdown of the fight, stay tuned for next week, probably, I think, when 295 happens. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel. Also, go ahead and like the video as well and hit the notifications. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching this video up to this point. I surely do appreciate it. Again, like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for notifications. I'm out of here. Peace.